Imagine opening your mailbox and finding a letter that changes your life in a single sentence. You owe thousands. Not next year, not eventually. Now. Your bank account can be frozen. Your tax refund can disappear. Your driver's license can be suspended. In extreme cases, you could even face jail time. All because of child support. For many people, child support laws feel distant. Something that happens to other families. Until suddenly, it's personal. A breakup turns into paperwork. Paperwork turns into court orders. And court orders turn into financial obligations that follow you for years, sometimes decades. Today, we're diving into the child support system in the United States, how it works, how it's calculated, and the hidden ways it can cost you thousands more than you expect. This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. Because the biggest financial shocks don't come from what we know. They come from what we don't. Let's start with the moment everything changes. When two parents separate, the law doesn't see a breakup. It sees a child who still needs support. And the court's priority is simple: the best interests of the child. Not fairness between adults, not who feels wronged, not who moved out. The focus is the child's financial stability. That sounds reasonable, but here's where things get complicated. Every state has its own formula for calculating child support. Some use what's called an income shares model, which estimates how much the child would have received if the household had stayed together. Others use a percentage of income model, where one parent pays a fixed percentage of their income. At first glance, it seems mathematical, predictable, almost neutral. But the reality? Small differences in income, custody time, health insurance costs, daycare expenses, and even bonuses can drastically change the amount ordered. And here's the first surprise that catches people off guard. Child support is based on gross income in many cases, not what you actually take home. That means before taxes, before retirement contributions, before health insurance deductions. So if you earn $80,000 a year but bring home significantly less, the calculation may still treat you as if you have access to the full $80,000. Now imagine you're also paying rent in a separate household. Utilities, groceries, transportation. Suddenly, the math feels very different. But it doesn't stop there. Bonuses, overtime, commissions, and even certain benefits can be included. In some cases, the court may impute income, meaning if you're unemployed or underemployed, they can assign an income to you based on what they believe you're capable of earning. Yes, even if you're not actually earning it. Picture this: someone loses their job, they're searching, bills are stacking up, but the court looks at their work history and says you should be making $60,000. Child support is calculated on that figure, not on the unemployment checks they're receiving. That difference? It can cost thousands in arrears before they even find their next job. And arrears, unpaid child support, are where things escalate quickly. Once you fall behind, interest may start accumulating depending on the state. Late payments can trigger enforcement actions. Wage garnishment can be automatic. In some states, up to 50 to 65% of disposable income can be withheld if you're behind and supporting another family. Think about that for a moment. More than half of what you earn, gone before you even see it. And here's another shock. Child support doesn't disappear in bankruptcy. Unlike credit card debt or medical bills, it survives. It follows you. Let's talk about duration, because this is another area where people underestimate the long-term cost. In most states, child support continues until the child turns 18. But if the child is still in high school, payments may continue until graduation. Some states extend support through college in certain situations. Others require parents to contribute to higher education costs separately. That means what you thought was an 18-year commitment might stretch further. Now let's add healthcare. Courts often require one parent to provide health insurance for the child if available at a reasonable cost. If not, uninsured medical expenses, like braces, therapy, or emergency visits, are typically split between parents, often in proportion to income. So even after you've paid your monthly support amount, a bill for orthodontics could arrive, or a therapy program, or specialized tutoring, and those expenses can't be ignored. Daycare and extracurricular activities are another layer. If both parents work, childcare costs are often factored into the support calculation. Sports teams, music lessons, school trips, depending on the agreement or court order, you may be responsible for a share. Individually, these costs might not seem overwhelming, but together, they can quietly add thousands per year. Now, here's where tension builds in many cases: custody time. Many people assume that if they share custody 50-50, child support disappears. That's not necessarily true. Even with equal parenting time, if there's a significant income gap between parents, one may still owe support. The rationale? To ensure the child experiences similar financial stability in both households. So imagine this scenario. You have your child half the time. You buy groceries, you pay for clothes, you cover activities, and you're still required to transfer money to the other parent because you earn more. Emotionally, that can feel confusing or even unfair. Legally, it's about equalizing resources. And here's something many don't realize: informal agreements don't protect you. You might agree verbally to pay less temporarily, or to skip payments while you're unemployed. But unless that modification is approved by the court, the original order stands. Arrears can accumulate even if both parents agreed. Years later, those unpaid amounts can resurface with interest. Modifying child support is possible, but it requires action. Courts typically require a substantial change in circumstances. That might mean job loss, significant income change, or changes in custody arrangements. But until a judge signs off, nothing changes legally. This is where some people make a costly mistake. They wait. They assume things will sort themselves out. They hope their ex won't pursue enforcement. They delay filing for modification because they're overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the balance grows. Enforcement tools are powerful. Wage garnishment is common. Tax refund interception can happen automatically. Lottery winnings can be seized. In some states, professional licenses can be suspended, meaning doctors, contractors, real estate agents, and others can't legally work until payments are addressed. Driver's licenses can also be suspended. That means commuting to work becomes impossible, which makes paying support even harder. It's a cycle that can spiral quickly. Now let's pause and reflect on something important. Child support laws were designed to protect children from financial instability after separation, and in many cases, they do. They ensure housing, food, education, and healthcare continue. But the system is also rigid. It runs on formulas and enforcement mechanisms that don't always reflect real-life complexity. What about parents who reconcile briefly and separate again? What about those who informally share expenses outside the order? What about fluctuating gig income? The law often moves slower than life does. Here's another surprise. Even incarceration doesn't automatically erase child support obligations in many states. Unless modified, the debt can continue accumulating. Imagine being unable to earn income and still watching arrears grow. Now let's talk about something that rarely gets discussed openly: emotional cost. Child support disputes can become deeply personal. Money is already sensitive. Add past relationship wounds, and tension rises quickly. But every hostile email, every late payment, every court appearance adds stress, not just financially, but mentally. And children feel it. High conflict support battles often spill into parenting time, communication, and long-term co-parenting relationships. So, what can protect you from unexpected costs? First, knowledge. Understand your state's calculation method. Many courts provide online calculators. They're not perfect, but they offer a preview. Second, documentation. Keep records of payments. Use traceable methods. Informal cash payments can be difficult to prove later. Third, act quickly if circumstances change. Job loss? File for modification immediately. Don't wait months hoping things improve. Fourth, Consider legal advice early. Even one consultation can clarify risks and options. The upfront cost might prevent years of financial damage. And finally, separate emotion from strategy. Child support is about numbers and compliance. The more you treat it like a legal obligation rather than a personal battle, the clearer your decisions become. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Over 13 million custodial parents in the United States receive some form of child support. Billions of dollars move through the system each year. For many families, those payments are essential. For others, the financial strain reshapes their entire lifestyle. Vacations postponed, homes downsized, career changes reconsidered, retirement contributions delayed. This isn't a small monthly inconvenience. For some, it's the largest recurring financial obligation outside of housing. And here's a final twist. Even after the child turns 18 and payments end, arrears don't vanish. If you owe back support, collection can continue indefinitely until the balance is paid. There's no magical expiration date in many jurisdictions. So when we say child support laws could cost you thousands, we're not exaggerating. We're talking about cumulative impact over years, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on income level and duration. But this story isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to illuminate, because preparation changes everything. If you're entering a separation, gather financial documents early. Understand both incomes clearly. Estimate potential support before court. Plan your budget realistically, not optimistically. If you're already paying support, review your order periodically. Has income changed? Has custody time shifted? Are you eligible for modification? If you're receiving support, know your rights as well. Enforcement exists for a reason, and stability matters for children. The most powerful position in this system is not the highest earner. It's the most informed parent. Child support laws are structured, enforceable, and persistent. They can protect children. They can also create financial shock for unprepared adults. The difference between stability and crisis often comes down to timing and knowledge. So if you take one thing from this entire discussion, let it be this: never assume, never guess. Never rely on handshake agreements when court orders are involved. Ask questions early. File paperwork promptly. Keep records always. Because once an order is signed, the clock starts ticking, and the cost of misunderstanding that clock can echo for years. Life after separation is already complicated. Emotions run high. Futures feel uncertain. The last thing anyone needs is a preventable financial disaster layered on top. Child support isn't just a line item on a budget. It's a legal structure with real consequences. Handled wisely, it can be manageable. Ignored or misunderstood, it can cost you thousands. And sometimes, the difference between those two outcomes is simply knowing what you're walking into before you walk into it. If this opened your eyes, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Conversations about money and family law aren't always comfortable, but they are necessary. Because when it comes to protecting your future, clarity isn't optional, it's everything.